Photos are such a special medium. They lock in a memory, a moment in time, a feeling. Since I started my photography journey in 2020, I've taken 1,047 photos that I hold near and dear to my heart. And in today's episode, I want to talk to you about my photography philosophy and why I love taking photos and why you should too. So growing up, I was not into taking photos. When I traveled, I purposefully did not take them. I felt like they took you out of the moment. And I had this idea in my head that any photo I wanted, I could just find on Google. Visiting Niagara Falls, why take a photo when you can just find the photo of it on Google? There's a million of them. Enjoy the moment, take it in. You don't need to take photos. Going to Paris, same deal. Why take a million photos of the Eiffel Tower or the Mona Lisa when you can just see them on Google and enjoy and stay in the moment for those moments? That was my philosophy. I understood photography to be taking yourself out of the moment, and so I just never took photos. But today, I feel like that's false. I think my photography keeps me in the moment and allows me to relive those special moments years later. So I want to share my motivations with you and some actionable tips so you can start your photography journey or continue it with maybe some of these motivations in mind. Okay, so there's a bunch of different styles of photography. For instance, there's landscape, portrait, wildlife photography, there's street photography, lifestyle photography, documentary photography, etc. So many. My style falls somewhere between lifestyle and documentary photography. I'm mainly taking pictures of friends and family and moments of my life, which is very lifestyle. But some lifestyle photography is a little more staged. So think like family photos, things like that. Mine is a bit more documentary style in that they're very rarely staged and more just things that are happening in the moment. So here's my why. I strive to capture memories, to document my life, friends, family, and moments in time, to create an intensely personal collection of photos that mean the world to me. Look, this isn't revolutionary. It's essentially the whole reason that you have childhood photos. This isn't anything new, but we're adults now, and each of us have a cell phone in our pocket. And so every day we choose to go out in the world and take meaningful photos that mean something and not just like snap a quick pic on our phone is a choice we're making. And that choice is to be more intentional with your photography and to follow your why. Okay, I have a couple rules for taking photos that I want to pass on to you. Feel free to break these rules. But I think this is what helps me keep the enjoyment and feel that this is just a really special hobby to me. Rule number 1, photos should keep you in the moment. I used to stay in the moment with photography by forcing myself to use film cameras. Film cameras have 36 shots per roll, so you can't just sit there and stage friends and take 100 burst photos. With film, you don't know right away how the photo looks. You have to go get it developed. It keeps you in the moment because you're not on the screen trying to see how did this photo turn out? Is everything okay? You take the photo, you put the camera away, and you're back. Most film cameras, however, were made 30 or more years ago. This was my film camera, the Ricoh FF90. It's a great film camera. If you're looking to start with film photography, get this point and shoot camera. But this camera was made in 1985. It's almost 40 years old now, which means film cameras are bound to break. Over the 3 years that I shot film, I purchased 4 point and shoot film cameras and 3 of them broke. Of course, because it's film, if it breaks, kind of in a dangerous situation, you don't want to expose the film to the light before it gets developed. If you do, you lose all of your photos. If you drop this and the back popped open with film in it, you've lost all your photos. It can be very scary. I had film cameras break one after the other, like immediately. That was the end for me because the photos that I take are very, very meaningful to me, and the thought of losing them was very stressful. So unfortunately, I no longer shoot film, even though I love film. It's one of my favorite mediums. It's just a little too risky for the type of photography that I want to do. Instead, about a year ago, I picked up this digital camera. This is a Fuji X100V. They now make the X100VI, and this has been my main camera ever since. With digital, it can be harder to stay in the moment because of course you have this like screen on the back so you can instantly view the photos you take. But because I built up that principle over 3 years with film photography, it's less of a challenge for me to just take the picture, put it away, view them later, maybe even take a burst now that it's digital. My main piece of advice here is to keep it quick. Take your photo, a single shot, a burst of shots, and put it away. Photos should not take 5-10 minutes for people to pose multiple angles, especially for the type of photography that I'm doing. Keep it quick. That's how there's the least amount of friction, and I think you get some of the best photos that way. Next rule. Rule number 2. A collection of photos should tell a story. I rarely take staged photos. When I do, I usually surround them with photos that tell the story of that event. So you're on a hike? Sure. Take that photo at the top of the mountain with like, you and your buddies, but also take photos of the in-between, of the moments where you're climbing up that mountain, the candids of people smiling or out of breath. My favorite photos are candid photos. Candids are those like in the moment shots where it's not not staged. You just sort of whip out the camera and take the picture real quick. And usually the subject doesn't know that their photo is being taken until it's already been taken. Of course, I'm taking photos of friends with permission. There are other types of photography like street photography where candidates are taken without the person's permission because it's usually a stranger. Whether that's good or bad is not really my place. Like, I don't know. But for me, I just take candidates of my friends. I'm not taking them of strangers. To facilitate taking candidates, I end up leaving my camera in automatic mode for like 90% of the photos I'm taking. This allows me to just whip it out real quick, turn it on, take the photo, and put it away. I think sometimes folks get in the weeds of I need this to be in manual mode, or I'm not a real photographer, or etc., etc. I think if you're taking a photo and you have intention, then you're a photographer no matter how you do it. And I think for my style of shooting, I prefer to leave it mostly in automatic. Rule number 3. This is my most important rule. One of them. They're all important. Photos should be deleted vigorously. If you take a burst of photos, you should go back and delete all but 1 or 2 of those photos, even most of the good ones. Only leave the very best 1 or 2 of those photos, delete the rest. Intentionally deleting photographs is one of the best things you can do for your photography. I try to be very strict about the photos that I'm keeping. And the way I think about it is, let's say I take 100 photos and 2 of them are the best. If I leave those 100 photos in my Photos app, when I scroll, most of the time I'm not getting joy out of these photographs. I'm having to scroll through a lot of garbage to get to like the good 2 photos. Doing the due diligence of deleting almost all of your photos, except for the ones that you like, makes it so that when you're going back and scrolling through these memories, every photo is bringing you joy. My camera roll right now, which contains both iPhone photos and all the photos from this camera, has 3,538 photos. Similarly, deleting photos is the reason why after 4 years, I only have 1,047 photos from my cameras. That's not because I've only taken 1,047 photos. I've taken many, many more, but I, on occasion, go back and delete as many photos as I can that I don't think make the cut. My 4th rule is that whatever gear you're using should optimize for making the process of taking photos as easy as possible. Your gear can be your smartphone camera, your gear can be point and shoot camera, a big DSLR, but for me, I try to optimize to keep it as simple as possible. Within this category, there's a few things for me. The first is that the camera should be small as possible, as close to pocketable as possible. This Fuji camera is small, not quite pocketable. I wish it was smaller. Another good option is the Ricoh GR3. That one does look to be pocketable, but it's missing a couple things that make it not able to be a camera for me. I'll touch on those in a moment. For me, because this is not quite pocketable, if it's wintertime, I might be able to fit it in a jacket pocket, but usually I'm carrying this around with a bag. I have my camera bag right here. This is usually what I'm carrying it around with. I carry this around most places. If not on me, then in my book bag. Just sort of gotten in the habit of keeping it on me most times, like my wallet or my phone or something like that. The size of this camera might be too big for you. Perhaps you just use your smartphone. I think your smartphone requires some extra effort in other steps like post-processing, but this is a great tool. You have it on you every day and you should definitely make use of it. I think what's most important is that you're taking the photos, right? Like if I don't have this camera on me, of course I'm going to be taking photos on my smartphone. I would rather have that memory in some way, in some fashion, and not have it at all. My next piece of advice, which is the reason why I don't have the Ricoh GR3, is that your camera should have a flash. The Ricoh GR3 does not have a flash. Of course, this Fuji camera does. Right up top. There. Yeah, the number of people I know who have bought cameras without flashes astounds me. Flashes help in all sorts of cases, nighttime especially, but also in difficult lighting conditions. If something's really backlight, a flash can really help with that. But more than that, flashes add this sort of like unique harshness sometimes to your image that can give it that like nostalgic look, which sometimes you can only really get from like a disposable film camera. Without a flash, you're of course limiting yourself to daytime photos or photos with enough light, maybe not all indoor situations. I think having the flexibility of a flash is so important to me that I would not buy a camera without one. Lastly, and the reason why I prefer not to use my smartphone for photography is that photos should look good as soon as you take them. They should require very little post-processing. This is my personal way of photography. Many digital cameras have quite a sterile look to them straight out of the camera, and then professional photographers go back and they use software like Lightroom and they edit these photos to make them look beautiful, and they do. They look beautiful. But that takes a lot of time. time. For me, it's highly important that photos I'm taking look good straight away. I can send them to my iPhone and share them instantly. I was treated so well when I did film photography. You take a photo on film and pretty instantly it just looks good. You don't have to do anything to these photos. They just look incredible. With digital, you have to do some work. That's why I bias towards buying a camera that has options which make it look good straight out of the camera. Fuji has something called film simulations, which replicate the look of film as close as possible through digital. And I think it does a pretty good job. If you're curious with how to start with film photography, which has way less of a barrier to entry than digital photography, especially in price, I have a video on this. I've made a video on how to get started. I'll link it in the top here. Okay, that's it. That's my philosophy. Quick recap: take photos, get those memories, create that nostalgia for yourself and for your friends, have your own why, and create a photo taking environment for yourself that really facilitates taking many of them in as easy of a way as possible. Now, go forth, take many photos, delete most of them. I'm so thankful for my photos. They capture memories of the people who are most special to me, and being able to capture them and to bring joy to their lives and have a picture that they can keep forever as well brings me a lot of joy. I love to go back to look at photos and to be instantly transported to that time and place. Photos are important, so go take some of your own. Go make those memories. All right, thanks all. I hope you have a good day.